Easy. Welcome to the first series of the Senib production tutorials. We're going to start today with a basic overview, and we're going to progress through this series into being able to, at the end of it, being able to fully produce and be able to get the ideas out of your head onto the page, so to speak. So this is just basically basic overview. As I said, we'll start at the very beginning and we'll walk through, and then after this episode we will move on to building the arrangement that you see in front of you, which is my standard setup. And yeah, so let's get into it. So this is your standard live window. It will open in session view as standard. That's your session view and arrangement view. I'll explain the differences between these two in a moment. So we'll start up here. You have your basic standard Mac options menu. If you're familiar with using a Mac, you would have this. If you're using Windows, it would be the same. And we'll go through, I'll do some deep dives onto what you can find up here and do shortcuts as well, because if any of you work with anything computer wise, shortcuts are the best thing. And right, so up here we have the standard, you have the top bar of Ableton. Here in the corner we have the link button, and Ableton has this really cool feature where you can sync multiple devices over the same Wi-Fi and set a master MIDI clock, and all devices will play on the same MIDI clock and stay in sync and in time. You have your tap tempo, so if you've got a beat in your head or you're trying to copy the same tempo as a beat as a reference track, you can tap that out using the pointer, or some MIDI input features have this as part of the kit, so you can use it as, like, if your Akai has that setting, or an Axiom, something like that. There's just two that I use. Then you have your standard. This is your Ableton main tempo. Obviously you can have different tempos on clips and loops that you bring in, but this is the main tempo of the track. And you have over here, you have nudges, so you can phase nudge up, phase nudge down. If you're any of you DJ, you understand what that means. It's basically before, if you're mixing or in between tracks, you can do nudges of tempos if you have a slight tempo difference. Then you have your time signature, you have your numerator and your denominator, metronome. If you click here, it will turn your metronome on, so when you play you'll get sound. You have the standard, you have a counting, so you have no counting. As soon as you hit record, it will start. You have a 1 bar, 2 bar, 4 bar counting. Sounds, you have the classic metronome sound, a click and a wood. And then your rhythm, so if you are crap at music, as like I am myself, I keep it on auto. That way it's just your standard, but you can do all kinds of stuff. And you can also keep your metronome silent, play your music, and then when you hit record it will turn it on. Otherwise, if you hit play, it will have it on. So if we do this and hit play, there's your metronome. If you enable only while recording, hit play, no metronome, hit record, metronome starts again. Yep, that's basically that. Then you have your global quantization. So this is if you are recording live in from MIDI keyboards or live instruments, this is what it will quantize your recording clip to. If you're a crap musician like myself, 1/16 is pretty good. If you're really good, you would only need like a bar or half bar. Then you have your follow button, so in arrangement view or with any of the clips, which you can bring up down here if you're in any of the views. And basically, if you, let's say you have a long arrangement, like you have 15 minutes worth of music, when the play marker, so if we put this on, go to here, when the play line or marker gets to the end of the window, as you'll see here, we'll move it forward just for time's sake, you see it will skip. But if you wait a minute, we'll start from here, so it gently rolls, and if you zoom out it will gently roll. If you have it zoomed in, it will move. So yeah, but the more stuff you have, general stuff, and you can also do this with clips too. So if you have a long clip loaded in here in the window, like you have a MIDI clip that long, and you're over here, so you have it zoomed out and you're working very fine. If you hit follow and play, this will follow as well, like such. You have your time, so this is your arrangement position within the arrangement. You can also see this from session view, so you know how overall long your song is. Let's get rid of that MIDI clip real quick. And also, when I'm switching these views, as you hear my keyboard clicking, it is tab to switch between the two views. Up here, standard play, stop record button. You have a MIDI arrangement overdub, so especially if you're working in session view and you're building something like, so say a piano, and you want to add some counter melodies, instead of having to launch a separate clip, or pencil them in, you can keep recording, select overdub, and it will record your notes along with the notes that are already recorded. If you turn this off, it will over record. So if you have a note on 1, 2, 3 and 4 and you record and you play a note on 3 and 4, 1 and 2 will be gone, if that makes sense. You have an automation arm, so if you have manual and automatic operations within session view and the arrangement, you can record them. So if you have like knobs like I do, or like faders and stuff, and you're recording into clips in session view, when you record into arrangement view, so you hit the global record button up here and record into this view from your session clips, it will record the automation along with it. If you don't have this armed, the automation will stay in the clip and not record over to the arrangement view, so when you render your audio you will lose that. We have re-enable automation, so if you accidentally touch one of the automation lines, so if you go in here you will see automation pops up and you have these nice little bars here, and if I were to, so I have that automated, if I then go into the actual chain and go to where we've edited it, so I've messed with the glue compressor somehow there, and if we go in and then change that again, I'm doing here, it'll make it better. So we go range, and then if we go and change it here, you'll notice it then goes grayed out. So we've edited it post making the arrangement. If you click the little re-enable, boom, it comes back. So you don't feel bad if you have everything with Ableton. You can go back steps, and it's really hard. If you make a mistake, just Control Z the crap out of it. Here is my absolute favourite feature of Ableton 10. It's called Capture MIDI. So you can jam on your keyboard, you guitar, whatever you want to do. Any kind of input coming in here, the MIDI clock's always recording, and it will record the last 32 seconds in a loop as you jam. So if you're just having a little playthrough and you come across a groove and you don't want to have to stop and play and record, just come back and click this button and it will play it. So if I just switch this to the keyboard real quick, turn the keyboard on, I'll explain that feature. So I'm playing some bass there. If we do that, so play that, and then if I click this button, boom, the notes I just played around with appear. And then you go in there. They're not always fully quantized, so you do have to go in and play around with them, but it is great for just having a jam and being very productive. So sometimes, inspiration strikes and you've lost it, just click that button, you got it. And you have a session record button, so if you're in MIDI clips, you can automate and overdub both the notes and the automation. If you turn this on, it will only record in the armed track. So if you look over here, we'll get into what arming is, but these red buttons over here are arming the track, so that allows input and play. It's like a record button almost. And if you have these tracked arms and you put session record view on, it will only record the armed tracks. It won't record anything else, so you don't overrun your arrangement. This is for your looping, so this turns loop on. You can have a punch in, punch off. So if you see, I've got a bar loop here. If you turn in, punch in and punch out, as you hit record, as you come into the loop, it won't record until it gets to this punch in point, which is on 17th bar, and then it ends on the 25th bar, so it'll stop recording there and then come back in, because it's a loop obviously, but it won't over record what's in front and behind. And then you have a region length, so it's obviously bars, beats, 16th notes, as is all counting in Ableton, bars, beats and 16th notes. And so here it is just how long it is before you have the punching point. So it won't record for 8 bars here, and it won't record for 8 bars in front. Also, so we go over here, this is a cool little feature too. You have a key, or a pen key, sorry. So you can go in and you can draw in arrangements instead of clipping in the buttons, and you can also hold down hotkeys to make these more smooth. If you right click, you can also insert shapes. So you can insert a standard sine wave, build it up like that. You can also then draw in notes in a piano roll. So we just open up. And also what I'm doing here, when you highlight in a MIDI or audio track in here, you hit Shift Command M and it draws a new loop, or a new clip, sorry. And so within the clip you can then draw in your notes. If you don't have this on, you just have double tap. Same, so it just makes things a little bit quicker, especially with automating. Then if you saw up here earlier when I clicked this turns on your computer keyboard, and from that, so A through L will be your white keys, and in the same respective places they are on a keyboard, like an actual piano keyboard, the QWERTY rack, that would be your black keys, and then Z and X is octave up, octave down. And with that, if you don't have any MIDI instruments, you can still play piano and play your instruments, tap out drums, whatever you want on your standard Mac keyboard or Windows keyboard. Then we get to key mapping, so I'll bring this up down here, we'll bring up the device rack, and if you click on key, anything on your keyboard, you can map anything that just turned gold, you can map to any key on your keyboard, or if you have other external devices, so this maps keys. If you have MIDI devices, this same way it maps to any device on your MIDI, so you basically just click whatever you want to map and then move the respected part on your device to get that to go. Over here is your CPU load meter. So excessive CPU load damages your computer, overheats, stuff like that. This button, if you ever hear audio clipping or just white sound over a loop so you don't hear anything, it means you should probably look up here and see that the red is on. If this red is flashing, it means you've either moved something too quickly, so the saved temp file on the hard drive can't be read. You ever see that flash red, just stop, see what you're doing. You might have changed some stuff. Save your file, come back out, go back in, it's a good fix, or just hit Control Z. This over here is showing if you have MIDI messages, so if you have external MIDI controllers or effects, anything like that, it will tell you if it's sending messages in these little corners, sending and receive. Then over here we have the ability to switch between session and arrangement view again. On this top bar here, this is basically your whole thing, shows all your tracks at the top. It's only available in arrangement view because you don't need it in session view, and you can drag, as you see when this little line comes up, make it bigger or smaller, and then if you hold with the magnifying glass and drag up or down, you can zoom in or out on your arrangement. The same if you're out, you can move left or right, click and drag, and it moves you to that point. Then over here we have some quick hot buttons, which if you have a lot of stuff, let's say you have a ton of racks loaded up in here, a ton of different instruments, you'll make some orchestral pieces or something, or really good drum and bass, and you can bring all your stuff in by clicking height, and it'll arrange everything by height so you can see everything easily. If you've got a long arrangement going on, you can do the same thing by pressing W, and it'll put all your tracks and clips into view in width range. So we'll start this bit with session view, because this bit is also available by clicking this little drop down arrow in arrangement view, but we'll start over here. So over here you have your collections and all your stuff, so it's basically your file viewer. You have favorite hotkeys, so you can right click on anything and you can load them into your favorite stuff. So samples I've used, these are my favorite go-tos, different racks I've built, some samples and stuff like that. Down here it's all of Ableton's built-in sounds, so instruments, racks, clips, sounds, Max for Live, anything like that. Drums, same concept, but all your drums, you have a blank drum rack, and then you have these pre-built drum kits or kits you've installed yourself. These are all Ableton's native built-in instruments, and we'll go through these one by one in the series because there is an extensive amount of them. Basically, you don't need a VST unless you are looking for a specific sound that VST makes. Ableton has the built-in version of it, and they're quite powerful. Same with effects, tons of them. Everything from amps to loopers to, it has a built-in tuner, so you can tune your notes, no longer guessing what key your stuff is in. You slap that tuner on and you can see what key's playing, and then do your transposing and changing to get stuff working. Right, and the next one is MIDI effects, and it's the same thing. So these audio effects can be played on audio and MIDI tracks, but MIDI effects can only be put on MIDI tracks because they affect notes and need an actual instrument to affect stuff. So you have an arpeggiator, you have chord, so if you're crap at playing chords, don't know much musical theory, you can bring up chord ranges, velocity, change velocities, you can do random, so much stuff. We'll cover this in a further episode. Max for Live is an built-in synthesizer, I guess. That's something else we will need to cover because Max is an amazing tool. I don't use it nearly enough, but basically you can build your own instruments, build your own effects, racks, everything. It is a crazy program, and it's essentially standalone, but it plugs in. These are your plugins, so you can run VST, VST3 and Apple Audio Unit. So if any of you have used GarageBand or Logic and are coming over to Ableton, you can use your Apple built-in audio units. Ableton reads them perfectly fine. I have only had issues with one or two, but they make a VST3 version, so yeah, doesn't need to be. It's not that complicated. I don't have any more because everything I use has a VST3 version now, which with 64-bit control I highly recommend switching your stuff to VST3 until the everyone comes away from 32-bit to 64-bit, but that's another discussion. So these are some of my favorites. You got VST3, VST1, and you can also, in the menu bar that I'm going to show you, the preference bar, I'll show you how to set local folders and stuff like that, and we'll get into that in just a little bit. So these are all your clips. So you can load these here into the session view. So these are audio, so they will have to go in an audio rack, and just audio clips you load in. I'll show you how to launch that and everything in a bit. I'll just delete that for now. Samples, these are either your own or anything that is built in with Ableton. So basically within Ableton's library, it's in here. Cool, so then these are your custom file locations. So if you're on a project and you can't find a file you used a sound earlier, you've got like one single weird hat somewhere chilling and you don't want to go through your whole project and find that single hat to put it in another space, you can bring up current project, all your files will be here. Then these are just folders I use. You use library. Sorry, this is a really important one. This is where everything is located. So if you save a preset, you're looking for defaults, stuff like that. So you can save everything as a default. It will be saved in here. All your clips, grooves. Ableton has a massive groove pool you can record into. Sorry, I just had to turn the metronome off in case I hit play because it's really annoying. All your sampler imports, like all your stuff that you've imported into sampler. All your samples, processed, imported, so you see all the different kicks I've used. Yeah, it's mad. Processor, your cropping that you've made, drum kits, stuff like that. You can then also, if we go into presets, preset instruments you built yourself, I highly recommend always save it because you can find it, even if you forget where you saved it. Like, so you saved it, you clicked after this, you're in a fast moving thing, everything's always there. There's a search bar at the top, which you can instantly go to by hitting Command F, so you don't even need to move your mouse cursor or look up there, and then you can find it. So these are all just my folders. Down here in the bottom you can add custom folders, so if you know where your stuff is on your hard drive and you're well organized, unlike myself, you just find all this stuff. So it's just different stuff I'm working on, my instrumental album, thing I did for Cymatics. I didn't get any feedback on that, but we'll keep that to ourselves. Yeah, just chords I go to. I have a sweet sample kit from Dr. Dre. Just different stuff I'm working on, yeah. And you can organize this however you want, put in your own folders, do however you need to do. Here's a pack of effects racks, they're pretty cool, we'll get into that too. Right, so let's take a look at session view. So here in session view you have each one of these is a track. Going from left to right in arrangement in session view will be the same as top to bottom in left to right in session view will be the same as top to bottom in arrangement view. There we go. And right, so you have groups here. Each one of these is an individual track. You can then group these tracks, and you can group tracks within groups. So this is my standard drum rack, and the next episode actually we're going to start here, and I'll show you how I built my drum rack and effects, and where I go to make my own drums and edit other drums and stuff like that. Move over to the right. This is my bass group. Get into that. Then you have a standard audio channel, so I have this standardized, so anytime I drop a new audio clip, this comes in. And I have just standard EQ, high and low cut, a utility, gain stage to -12, so nothing over clips, comes in quiet, but you can adjust later, it's better than popping your speakers out. Same on here, if I insert a MIDI channel, same thing, but on my MIDI I have my most go-to effects built that already come up, so it's not, you don't have to go drag and drag, it's already there, boom, they're turned off, so they don't come in loud or affecting stuff, so you get the raw sound. Then down here, sorry for the smacky lips, you have, each one of these is called a slot or a clip. This is where the clip container is. You can't put a clip inside the actual group rack, you have to go into the actual instrument. Then those go from left to right and top to bottom. So left, everything in the same scene, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, each numbered is a scene. This is the scene play button. so it will play the whole scene at once. So you can play clips across, but if you go down in the same track, it will switch from that. So these are essentially individual tracks. You can't play two things in the same track. Over here you have return tracks, so you can send and bleed in your sounds there. I have standard reverb and a delay, and yeah, so you don't, instead of putting it directly on the effect, you can bleed it into, sends return tracks, kind of like reverb on an external rack that someone would have. And then this is your master channel. It's self-explanatory. If you have something arranged and you come back in and play in session view, you can then click this again and it will bring up back to arrangement view. But if you start playing in session view and leave it as it is, your session view will be the only one playing, so arrangement view will go out. So if we click that back, no, it hasn't done anything yet. But yeah, if this is ever red, it means session plays recording, arrangement view won't play. You can hit F10, it goes back to arrangement view, and then what you've already recorded will play. And down here we have your input outputs, so MIDI from, audio from, which is really cool. So you can send MIDI to audio tracks, audio to MIDI tracks. You can record different stuff. This is something more deep dive into. Monitor, audio to, so you can get audio in and audio to. So basically a rack doesn't also necessarily play out of the same track. So you can see all these drums are going into this drum group, and then that audio goes from the drum group to the master. Same with the bass. So if you look here, you can also then drop, I can have my bass triggered by my kick drums, my snares, whatever you want. So this is all audio routing. These are your send knobs. It's basically your volume fader, left, right. Then this will show you your peak level. So it will show you the last time a sound played, its peak level. If you click on this, it will level it out and it'll reset the value, and then it'll play again. So if you've dropped the volume down and you want to see how far down it's coming, especially in a mixing session, you just click that and then it'll go back to 0. Track activator, track deactivated, solo. So you can solo. I have multiple solo enabled, so you can solo multiple tracks. Same with arming. These are your arm buttons, or your record if it's an audio track. So if it has a little musical key, you know it's a MIDI track. If it has a little record button, it is an audio track. Just in case you've renamed stuff. Anything, if you click up here, Command R renames it. Sorry, I should have covered that in the beginning. But yeah, that's the basic overview of session view. Over here, this is your preview volume. So if you click on any clip or sound over here, it will play in this little preview button over here, and you can change the volume of that. Same thing, left, right over here. Over here, your show hides, so you can input, output, send, returns, mixer section, track delays, and a crossfader. So yes, you can mix with Ableton, but that is another lesson. Right, and let's go back into arrangement view. So same thing as in session view, but instead of left to right, it is top to bottom. Zoom out a bit, and the same thing, you click and drag into these. If you click an audio onto a MIDI track, Ableton will convert it based on what you want to do. So if I just bring up a quick loop here, doesn't matter what it is, I'll drop it onto my bass channel, pop up, convert audio to MIDI. And then, yeah, so if you drop a drum rack on, it'll convert your drums. If you drop it into an actual drum rack, it will automatically convert drums. That's also another cool feature. You don't have to select it. You can extract the melody or the harmony. And yeah, you cancel. Over here, same view as at the bottom of the tracks as in session view. Just instead of knobs, they're a bit square. This is your fader, on, off, all that good stuff. Going down all the way to the bottom. You can drag new files in here that automatically create. Same reverb, master track. If you go into this little corner, here's a cool little feature, is if you turn this on with this little knob down here, anything you highlight in Ableton, it will give you a quick brief overview. It won't give you a deep dive, so if you don't know what it is in the first place, it'll just give you an idea of what it does. So this is telling me, click on here, tells you what a macro control field name is, tells you where the macro control is, but it doesn't tell you what it does in relation to the sound. It just tells you what you're looking at. So there you go, automation lane, and it also will show you hotkeys. So the really cool thing at Ableton is that they're very hot on hotkeys, and yeah. So over here, this is your device rack. You can click on that; it will be labeled over here. You can also highlight this with the little arrow in the bottom right corner, or you can double click when you get this up down arrow shelf thing. Double click, it brings it up. If you have any clips highlighted, so it will show you the highlighted clip. we get to here. This is your clip view. You have your MIDI note editor, piano roll, whatever you want to call it. If you have multiple notes going through multiple octave ranges, if you fold, it will only show you the notes that you have played, which is quite cool because you can do a little secret with chord keys where you key in the keys here, hide them behind the grid, fold it, and the only keys that will show up will be the key. I have another lesson for that planned as well. So over here, you can change your clip color, change clip name, time signature of the individual clip. This is not the global time signature. Always, if you drag something in, it will match the global time. However, you can change the time signature and play around with some cool stuff. This is your groove pool. Ableton has its own built-in grooves. It has MPC's grooves. It's got standard 16th, 8th notes, whatever you need to do to change a little bit of groove and give a human feel to drums or pianos and stuff like that. You can do it here. Which again, we'll cover that in another lesson. It shows a range of electric notes. So if I hit G8, it'll show them arranged E8, and then if we select them all, it will show them as an arrange. You can double tempo or half tempo these. So back in the day when I was making dubstep, this was a great tool because it turned 140 drums into half time with the click of a button. You can reverse. So if we put another one here, if you watch reverse, gotta highlight them all. Sorry, reverse it. Whoop whoop. Invert it. Whoop whoop. Yeah. Legato. You can lengthen the notes so they all go into one. And then you can duplicate the loop. So you just click boop 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 boop, and it'll duplicate what you've done. Control Z or Command Z. Sorry, gets it all done. So MIDI banks. So you can send MIDI information to your MIDI controllers. Say like someone like Pete Cannon who has the external Akai and is just an absolute all-round badman. He would be using this a lot. You can change your clip view set starts. So if you click here, you can set these to where the loop and end starts are. Loop, unloop. So you can just have this play, especially in session view. You can launch just one clip, and when it gets to the end of the time, it will stop playing. And you can change the clip view positions here. Then you can bring up envelopes. So within the individual clip, you can alter different things, and depending on what you have highlighted, different things will be selected here. Not always is everything available, but you can within the individual clip. So instead of doing this in the arrangement view in the armed recording track, you can do this with the individual clip and edit multiple clips instead of having to go through your whole arrangement. And do it that way. You can then copy and paste and then maybe change one or two things here. Just depends on what your workflow is. So if you are working exclusively in session view, this is a good idea. If you are working in arrangement view, it's up to you. It's personally just personal taste. There are some cool powerful features you can do in here with transposing and pitch bending and stuff like that are just quite powerful, and I prefer to do within the clip. It's just easier to work with. You don't have to worry about then you might not have zeroed that effect back out and it bleeds into another clip. Just keeps everything arranged within that individual clip. Yeah, just a quick little view of what we have within this. I didn't cover this. This is your time. This is your global track time. Up here, this is so beats and bars, and then it equates to time. So this is really good to teach yourself also if you want to know, especially for like rappers, let's say at 90 BPM, which is a most common hip-hop BPM, you know that a 33 will be just shy of a minute 30. To be exact, it will be a minute 25 and a couple milliseconds. So you can then start like learning and teaching yourself just by looking at stuff. So the visual aids in Ableton are quite nice as well, especially for someone myself, no musical background, a drum kit as a kid, but that is it. Basically taught this all myself and through some friends and some really good people in the industry that I will big up at the end of this series. But yeah, this concludes episode 1, and let me know what you think, and get ready for episode 2. We will deep dive and we'll just start creating, get drums set up, get bass set up, and then we'll cover in effects and we'll go from there. If there are any specific features that you noticed here that you want to know a little bit more about, let me know and I'll get a video for you. Enjoy, and thank you again.